Florence Nightingale was born in Florence, Italy on May 12, 1820. Part of a wealthy family, Nightingale defied the expectations of the time and pursued what she saw as her God-given calling of nursing. Florence Nightingale, revolutionizing one life at a time. Famous for being the lady with the lamp, Florence Nightingale took a stand in literature, mathematics, and in nursing, where the effects of her reform are still seen in modern-day society. Her accomplishments in literature and mathematics are distinguishable, but directly related to the field of nursing, as they were inspired by the needs for a panacea to the problems that never seemed to cease.
From a young age, Nightingale was active in philanthropy and ministered to the ill and poor people in the village neighboring her family's estate. Nightingale eventually came to the conclusion that nursing was her calling. She believed the vocation to be her divine purpose. During the Victorian era, where English women had almost no property rights, a young lady of Nightingale's social stature was expected to marry a man of wealth to ensure her class standing, not take up a job that was viewed by the upper social classes as lowly, menial labor. Determined to pursue her dreams despite her parents' objections, she took a stand against social stigmas present during the Victorian era and eventually enrolled as a nursing student in 1850 at the Institution of Protestant Deaconess in Kaiserwerth, Germany.
In October of 1853, the Crimean War broke out. Allied British and French forces were at war against the Russian Empire for control of Ottoman territory. England was in an uproar about the neglect of their ill and injured soldiers who not only lacked sufficient medical attention due to hospitals being horribly understaffed, but also languished in appallingly unsanitary conditions. In late 1854, Nightingale received a letter from Secretary of War Sidney Herbert asking her to organize a corps of nurses to tend to the sick and fallen soldiers in the Crimea. Given full control of the operation, she quickly assembled a team of almost 36 nurses from a variety of religious orders and sailed with them to the Crimea just a few days later.
Although they had been warned of the horrid conditions there, nothing could have prepared Nightingale and her nurses for what they saw when they arrived at Scutari, the British base hospital in Constantinople. The hospital sat on top of a large cesspool, which contaminated the water and the building itself. Patients lay in their own excrement on stretchers strewn throughout the hallways. Rodents and bugs scurried past them. The most basic supplies, such as bandages and soap, grew increasingly scarce as the number of ill and wounded steadily increased.
They didn't even have proper soap and hot water. I mean, it was just very, very backward. But when the sanitary commission started to clean up the hospitals, and I mean digging down into the sewers and removing the crap, just tons of it, cartloads of it, and then rebuilding the water supply. And of course, they had to build laundries with hot water because the men had vermin in their clothes. I mean, it was just disgusting. And so it took these major, major renovations, but then the death rate went down.
Nightingale quickly set to work and showed her leadership. She procured hundreds of scrub brushes and asked the least infirm patients to scrub the inside of the hospital from floor to ceiling. Nightingale herself spent every waking minute caring for the soldiers. In the evenings, she moved through the dark hallways carrying a lamp while making her rounds, ministering to patient after patient.
The successive year, Queen Victoria rewarded Nightingale's leadership by presenting her with an engraved brooch that came to be known as the Nightingale Jewel, and granted her a prize of 250,000 euros from the British government. Nightingale decided to use the money to further her cause. In 1860, she funded the establishment of St. Thomas's Hospital and within it, the Nightingale Training School for Nurses. Nightingale became a figure of public admiration. Young women aspired to be like her and even collected her figurines. Eager to follow her example, women from the wealthy upper classes started enrolling at the training school. Thanks to Nightingale, nursing was no longer frowned upon by the upper classes. It had in fact come to be viewed as an honorable vocation.
Nightingale developed a flair for devising graphic methods, including her well-known polar area graph, which was similar to the pie chart created by Scottish economist William Playfair in 1801. With the help of William Playfair, who was famous for his charts on exports and imports, and after multiple drafts, Nightingale produced the polar area graph. This polar area graph is equivalent to a modern circular histogram used for illustrating grouped cyclic data. It was cut into 12 equal angles where each slice represented 1 month of the year, which revealed changes over time. Nightingale's graph not only dramatized the extent of the needless deaths among the soldiers during the Crimean War, but it was also used as a tool to persuade the government and medical profession that deaths were preventable if sanitation reforms were implemented in military and civilian hospitals.
Nightingale's reformatory spirit did not restrict itself to military hospitals. Her investigation of London's hospital statistics in 1858 confirmed that the record-keeping needed to be revised. She found that in addition to just simple carelessness in the collation of statistical information, there was a complete lack of scientific coordination. Her research would spark a total reconstruction of the War Office's administrative department, including the establishment of a Royal Commission for the Health of the Army in 1857. Nightingale was also noted for her statistician skills, creating pie charts on patient mortality and Scutari that influenced the direction of medical epidemiology. Nightingale was also an advocate for women's rights. Nightingale established nursing education by writing the first textbook on the subject in 1960, entitled Notes on Nursing. This book outlined the principles of the nursing profession, providing advice on how regular women could care for their families and how illness could be properly managed. In her writing, Nightingale emphasizes the importance of patient observation to figure out their symptoms and needs as to be able to provide the right care. The importance of sanitary conditions was also stressed, as well as warmth, clean air, lightened rooms, and a nutritious diet.
She supported the Married Women's Property Act, all kinds of rights for women, but the admission of women into university, she very much promoted that. And so that it wasn't her main activity. Her main activity was in healthcare, but she played a significant supporting role in rights for women, political rights, and certainly economic rights.
While at Scutari, Nightingale had contracted the bacterial infection brucellosis, also known as Crimean fever, and would never fully recover. By the time she was 38 years old, she was bedridden and would be so for the remainder of her long life. Fiercely determined and dedicated as ever to improving healthcare and alleviating patient suffering, Nightingale continued her work from her bed and remained an authority and advocate of healthcare reform, interviewing politicians and welcoming distinguished visitors from her bed. In 1859, she published Notes on Hospitals, which focused on how to properly run civilian hospitals. Nightingale helped establish numerous nursing organizations throughout the remainder of her life and received numerous awards for her work, including the German Order of the Cross of Merit and the French Gold Medal of the Red Cross. She was appointed a Lady of Grace of the Order of St. John in 1904 and became the first woman to be awarded the Order of Merit in 1907. She was given the Honorary Freedom of the City of London in 1908, and on May 10, 1910, she was presented with the Badge of Honor of the Norwegian Red Cross Society. She was also the first woman to become part of the Royal Statistical Society.
Nightingale had an influence across the world. Her writings sparked worldwide healthcare reform. Throughout the U.S. Civil War, she was frequently consulted about how to best manage field hospitals. Nightingale also served as an authority on public sanitation issues in India for both the military and civilians, although she had never been to India herself. Her training school for nurses has been emulated across the globe and has helped increase the acceptance of women's rights and abilities. Nightingale also inspired the founding of the International Red Cross.
But she took on tough issues. She took on really tough issues, like healthcare for the poorest, a famine in India where millions of people died from famine. The big issues. She didn't shy away from the big issues.
We still see Nightingale's impact today through the legacy she has left behind. The Florence Nightingale Museum, which sits at the site of the original Nightingale Training School for Nurses, houses more than 2,000 artifacts commemorating the life and career of the Angel of the Crimea. Nightingale supported her theories and choices with evidence, something modern-day nurses practice and reinforce each day when delivering informed patient care and treatment plans. Publishing over 200 books, reports, and pamphlets on hospital planning and organization, which are still widely read and respected today, including her most famous work, Notes on Nursing, What It Is and What It Is Not. The Florence Nightingale Pledge is analogous to the Hippocratic Oath, as it is a statement of the ethics and principles of the nursing profession. Florence Nightingale took a stand in literature, mathematics, and nursing, and has had a legacy with an everlasting impact on modern-day society.
I am no longer even a memory, just and vague. I hope my voice may perpetuate the great work of my